Spider? There's a spider? What? Oh! Oh, fuck! Oh, my God! There is a spider! What the fuck? Ah! What is...
It appears, at least for now, that a bipartisan meeting of governors at the White House is back on after President Trump initially only invited Republican governors, but he's still blocking 2 Democratic governors from a separate dinner and attacking the GOP chair of the National Governors Association, a very conservative Republican named Kevin Stitt, as a rhino. Let's bring in Democratic Governor Andy Beshear of Kentucky to discuss it all. Governor, there's a lot of confusion over whether Democratic governors are still invited to attend this bipartisan meeting and dinner at the White House. Kevin Stitt, the Oklahoma governor and the chair of the National Governors Association, seemed to say that you and your fellow Democrats are invited, but then the president went on social media and attacked him. What's your understanding?
How sensitive are House/Senate races to governorship votes? So the gubernatorial race is actually one of the few races that's kind of decoupled from party loyalty, even though it obviously plays a massive role in the party advancing its interests, in the party advancing its agenda. Andy Beshear is actually a perfect example of this. Deep red state, but he's deep blue. He's uncompromising on protecting trans people and stuff like that. So, like, it actually plays a really big role in how the parties operate. But at the level of the voter, when they're going out and voting for a governor, it's a much more personal decision. It's a much more personal decision, and it's entirely around, like, what the governor is going to do, like how the governor pitches why you have to vote for him. Okay? The reason why I say this is because there are plenty of instances where you'll have a red state with a blue governor, and even more instances where you have a blue state with a red governor, right? So the governor has tremendous power over the state and over the state legislature, the power of the veto, the power to basically run it like a president, like a mini president. And yet, regardless of that, there are plenty of instances where, you know, you have more moderate red governors in blue states, and you have blue governors in red states.
Are you invited to these events? Are you planning on going?
It's just a lot of drama, and it's unnecessary. You know, governors wake up every day focused on getting results, on creating better jobs, creating safer communities, expanding access to health care, improving our public schools. And this meeting is an annual bipartisan tradition where we try to push our differences aside and talk about how we move forward in those areas. Yet the president has just turned it into drama, inviting and disinviting others. It no longer looks like it's going to be productive at all. At this point, I'm not going. If you're not going to invite all the Democratic governors, this chair of the DGA isn't going to be there.
So just for the record, it's Jared Polis of Colorado and Wes Moore of Maryland who are the 2 Democrats not invited. Are you worried at all that you not going will ultimately hurt your constituents in any way, denying you an opportunity to bring up your concerns with the president directly?
We've been able to communicate with this administration for our concerns, but there's a time when you have to stand up against the drama of a president that's turned an annual bipartisan tradition and is treating it like he's a 12-year-old and it's his birthday party, inviting and disinviting people, lashing out at others. You know, the American people admittedly don't care about this dinner. They don't care necessarily about the meeting. They care about whether you're improving their lives, decreasing costs, trying to address their everyday challenges. So that's what I'm going to be focused on.
For the record, I've had 2 12-year-olds, and neither of them would have ever done that. The administration is increasingly focused on the midterms. Earlier in the show, we played some sound from DHS Secretary Kristi Noem talking about making sure the right people are voting and electing the right leaders. Between that and the DOJ demanding voter information from states, and the president saying he plans to implement voter ID requirements even without congressional approval, are you worried as a governor about what is going to happen at the midterms?
Well, it's my job to be worried. Kristi Noem's statements are wild and they are un-American. The president talking about not federalizing elections. He first said Republicans should take over elections. in certain states. That is anti-democracy. But Democratic governors and AGs are ready to stand up and make sure we have full and fair elections. But I'll say this. If you try to intimidate the American people, especially when it comes to something so foundational as voting, I think you're underestimating them. I think you'd see huge lines and people singing. You know, people want to be Americans first, and Democrats or Republicans second, third, or fourth. You put our democracy at jeopardy. You try to intimidate them from voting, and they will step up and protect this country.
But what are you specifically talking about doing if there is an issue?
Well, the first thing we do is go to court. That's what the courts are for. I've taken on this Trump administration despite being in a Trump plus 31 state over and over and over, and we've been winning. When they've tried to take the personal information of our citizens so that they can use it as they wish, we stood up to them. When they tried to cancel funding so that we could create a warning system in eastern Kentucky for the next time it would flood, we stood up to them. Time and time again, they've overreached, like trying to send National Guard from Texas to Illinois. We were a part of that lawsuit, standing up and winning for the American people.
Hakeem Jeffries asked point blank about Bernie Sanders endorsing progressive challengers to House races. He's going to have a bad argument here as well. Now, of course, before we get to that, I do want to talk about a complimentary piece to this conversation that is taking place right now. The New York Times went and asked a bunch of Democratic Party voters, lifelong Democratic Party voters, people who voted for the Democrats in the past, how they feel about the current state of affairs in the Democratic Party. And I think it's very interesting because there are a lot more people in the base.
Do you have one last question?
There are a lot more people in the base of the Democratic Party who have opinions. Breaking Tucker detained in Israel. I'm gonna fly out to Israel right now so they can fucking detain me and then hopefully kill me in prison, in an Israeli prison. Oh my God, chatters. I know. Okay? I fucking know. You want to know why I know? Because I of course, this is a huge story. It's literally in the fucking look. Read the pinned. Read the pinned statement. We are aware Tucker Carlson has been detained. We are aware of the situation in Israel and Iran. Please stop. Anyway, as I was saying, the complimentary piece to this is the New York Times piece that I would like to get to. Does anyone have the link for that? Maybe you can send me a link that I actually want to see for once. We're going to get to the New York Times piece. What word would you use to describe the Democratic Party? Okay, this is an interactive piece from the New York Times. And virtually every single person from every age group that they asked this question to said the same shit. Michael, 56, book dealer, paralyzed. Terrell, 68, retired, sold out. Afraid. Denise, 57, account manager. This is an opinion editorial piece called America in Focus. And the main takeaway was, show up for us. 13 Democratic voters on Trump, ICE, and their frustrations with the Democratic Party. Donald Trump's second presidency has remade American life in just a year. Many Democrats and others worry about the erosion of civil rights, cuts to social safety net, and the significant aggressive increase in deportations across the country. Amid major debates among activists, pundits, and elected officials about what direction the party should take, Times Opinion assembled 13 Democratic and Democratic-leaning voters to ask how the party is handling the moment, what changes and reprioritizations they want to see, and what kind of Democrats are standing out. Participants in our group weren't unclear about what the party stands for, the greater good and the protection of civil rights, but many also expressed dissatisfaction with a lack of resolve this past year during shutdown fights as well as more broadly. Again, every single pressure point that I have fucking yelled at the Democrats over, these guys also feel the same way. And these guys aren't HasanAbi heads. This is the New York Times, people. This is the establishment newspaper. It's not like we're not reading Jacobin, okay? We're reading the New York Times. I need you to understand. Yeah, they're too young to be HasanAbi heads. Even recognizing that there isn't much Democrats can do out of power, people wanted more action and more aggression, especially if and when the Democrats take power again. You will hear the same exact sentiment that we express in here every single day being expressed by people who are nowhere near the demographics of being in this community. They're not card-carrying Democratic Socialists of America. party members, but they share the same enmity and the same anger that we all do. Okay? In particular, they wanted candidates who were young, progressive, and from a more modest or working class background with clear and simple messages. And as far as the Democrats who are standing out to these people, Jasmine Crockett, Pete Buttigieg, Zohran Mamdani, Gavin Newsom, many of them are the ones who've made a point in appearing in combative media environments, invoking a famous Michelle Obama quote, "After the past few years, these voters no longer want a party that goes high." Okay? So these are the participants. There's like two 36-year-olds in there, okay? One 29-year-old in there, Arizona, Asian, independent, computer science. 33, Mike is from North Carolina, white, Democrat, telecoms, okay? There's a 33-year-old black Democrat voter, career coach from Michigan. But here is the first question that they ask. Fill in the blank for me. I'm feeling bleep about the way things are going in the country these days. Okay? Confused about the direction the country is going. Frustrated, upset and concerned, discouraged, strongly concerned, terrified and angry, disappointed, pessimistic. I was going to say frustrated, horrified, tired and sad and upset. Now, this makes sense. When the Republicans are in charge, of course, Democrats are going to say this kind of stuff. Anybody have a positive word? No, I don't. No, absolutely not. These are tough words, Candy. Let me start with you. You said frustrated. Tell me why. I know people who are immigrants. So just what's going on with immigration and even being myself a U.S. citizen, I'm concerned about getting pulled over and shot and killed, or one of my family members is going to get discriminated against. I'm scared to leave my home. I already work at home. Now I feel like I have to stay here because I'm so scared. People feel paralyzed because of the ICE activities that are taking place all around the country, right? Have any other people have had an experience like Candy's? My family's all immigrants. We're all citizens, but I worry about my parents going out. They learned English later in their lives. I've heard that ICE is near where we live. I'm wondering if I have to have them carry their passports around when they need to go get groceries and things like that. Lauren from Iowa says, I have family members who are immigrants. That concerns me that even though they're citizens, they could be out doing normal day-to-day things, especially with the kids in tow, and just be yanked off the street, and we wouldn't be able to intervene in any way. Yeah, I just feel we're at the point now that we're being treated like animals. I'm Puerto Rican. I speak full Spanish, so sometimes I'm scared to go out and speak my native language. My mother, I'm afraid for her because she's older. They might just judge her by the way she looks, so I'm very, very frustrated. Moderator says, I want to hear from some other folks. Like, what was on your mind when you said all the words that people said, discouraged, frustrated, terrified, etc.? People who are maybe not immigrants, but minorities and things like that are just being targeted. There's a lot in my community about ICE coming and pulling over people, and it's disheartening, actually. Christian, you said discouraged. One, a lot of the economic policies that have been put in place, looking at the job market, looking at the numbers that just came out today, worst number in years, it feels just economically, there's no real light at the end of the tunnel. The immigration policies are also a disaster, and they're inhumane. Socially, some people have just embraced being blatantly racist, whether it's towards immigrants, whether it's towards African Americans. It's been normalized, not to say it ever, not to say it ever fully went away, but we've just regressed. Katie says, I wake up in the morning and I look at my phone and it's another headline. I saw something on Facebook the other day that was from The Onion, and I had to double check to make sure that that was where it came from, because in reality that we're living right now, it's hard to tell the difference between real life and satire, which is not a good place to be in. I would say that I've been discouraged since 2016, Trump's first term. Nothing has changed since then. It's gotten worse and worse and worse. Now people are being shot in the street, and it's like, well, how far is it going to go now? It's just not right. Until about 10 years ago, I used to think that things would be a little better every year or over time. Now it just seems, for the most part, the government is putting into place policies that are meant to take advantage of people who need the most help and to benefit the people who are well off. How do you get ahead when this is the situation? How do you, Kaya? How do you get ahead when this is the situation, huh? How? Oh, you like being noticed. Is that what it is? That's what it is. Look at her tail. Look at her little tail wag. You just like being noticed. This is how we get ahead. Hello. Hello. Do we still fully don't know what's happening in the concentration camps, and they're literally destroying cameras and videos on hard drives? I know. She wants the soundboard. Here, look at this. Kaya, place. I now officially have a place button. Who's your little lady? Okay, come here. Come here. Basically, most of the things that you are feeling, these people are also feeling. It's very common. This is a very common feeling. This is why I always say you're not alone. And I have experienced this in the real world, where I go to these events, I go to these protests, I go to these marches, I go to like places where liberals congregate, right? And not even just liberals, but like independents, older people in general. And they have the same exact animosity, both towards the way that the Republicans are handling the situation, hatred towards Donald Trump, but then anger and resentment towards the Democrats as well. Okay? This is important to understand. It's important to understand because you're not alone in this anger. And yet there is an entire media ecosystem dedicated to telling you, no, things are great. The Democrats are actually going to win by small margins, and then they're going to do business as usual politics, and you're going to like it. We're going to move and pivot towards moderation again and again and again. If you pivot towards moderation at a time when Republicans are going far right, then all you have is a center right to far right existence. We cannot do that. We must do away with this mentality.
Zohran Mamdani is issuing an ultimatum in an effort to close the city's massive budget gap. He's calling on New York Governor Kathy Hochul to raise taxes on the city's wealthiest people, or he'll have to increase property taxes by nearly 10%. But that's not enough to balance.
Yeah. Zohran Mamdani has officially moved on to playing hardball. While I was initially critical of his move of endorsing Kathy Hochul before the New York Democrats did, and doing it alongside AOC, and coming out of the gate swinging with a Kathy Hochul endorsement rather than wait and have proper leverage against her, right? He got this endorsement. Now, what's really interesting about this endorsement and this calculated posture that he has is that the endorsement actually yielded a concession from Kathy Hochul immediately in the form of $1.5 billion to play, to basically help with the budget shortfall that the previous administration had presented, right? A lot of corruption from the Adams administration, and Zohran is doing full-blown transparency, okay? But it didn't end there. There was a back and forth on whether or not Zohran was the guy that was actually going to continue pushing Kathy Hochul in the right direction, because one of his major agenda items is obviously increasing the taxes on the super wealthy in the city of New York, right? And you can't really do that without Albany, the state of New York, controlled both by the state assembly members, but also by the state legislature and the city assembly members, the state legislature, but more importantly, also by Governor Kathy Hochul, right? The major reasons as to why he's doing this, obviously, is through sewer socialism. Shouts out Michael from Pennsylvania, loves talking about this, obviously, to give him his flowers, to show that if you are a socialist elected, you will accomplish the promises that you made, and that as a movement guy, as a movement leader, no matter how small a role you think you may play, and the mayoral seat is a very powerful one, especially in New York City, that you will show nationally to every Democratic Party voter that is paying attention, both in the city of New York, but also beyond, that a socialist elected means a person who is serious about making the necessary changes that will improve the material conditions of the working class. The struggle continues, right? He has a lot of pressure. He has pressure from all of the same like corporate entities and corporate interests in New York City. He has pressure from the police. And he also has pressure from Albany with Kathy Hochul, who is obviously not going to comply with everything that he's demanding. But the question was, for many people, whether or not Zohran was actually invested in this fight to tax the wealthy, because he said he wasn't going to go to the protest that's taking place in Albany against Kathy Hochul to put public pressure against the governor to make sure that the governor advances this agenda item. And there was actually a really interesting take from Peter Stern, who initially addressed, where is it? Where the fuck is it? Does anyone have the link to the original take that Peter Stern had when like Zohran said that he wasn't going to go to Albany and support the protests against Kathy Hochul? This caused people to think maybe Zohran is not invested in this fight at all. Okay? It invoked understandable scrutiny, okay, towards what he was trying to do. But then he very quickly came out, got some promises in terms of $1.5 billion from Kathy Hochul's office. Hello.
Balance the books. In addition, he says he'll also have to pull millions from the city's rainy day fund from retiree benefits. It is a path that Mamdani says he does not want to go down.
And if we do not go down the first path, the city will be forced down a second, more harmful path.
Yeah. There's obviously a couple options here, right? At play. Either Kathy Hochul raises taxes on the wealthy, or he tries to basically force the hand of Julie Menin, okay, to use the city to increase property taxes, okay, or austerity. Now, austerity is unacceptable. It's not going to happen, right? He is not going to do austerity. He said he's not going to do austerity at all. So that's gone from the equation. New statement from the council speaker, Julie Menin, on Mamdani's budget proposal came out as well. We're going to be covering all that, but here, let's do this.
The options of the second path are the options of last resort.
I'm turning off TTS.
Options that we will only employ if there is no other means of arriving at a balanced budget.
What's interesting about this, of course, is, like I said, he is forcing the hand of the governor's office, right? This is very real pressure because the city does not want to raise property taxes at all, especially because if property taxes are raised, obviously landlords are going to turn around and increase the price of rent. It's going to make housing more unaffordable. It's going to be a burden on working class individuals, which he openly states, by the way, in this long response video that he crafted, his town hall that he did, where he basically said, you know, we are forced to raid the rainy day fund, the retiree health benefits, trust reserve, and to increase property taxes. What is this? You dumb socialist. I bet you want to tax millionaires at some absurd percentage, like 90%. That would never work and has never been done, but you wouldn't know that because you're a dumb socialist. Exactly. That person is joking. Obviously, the highest tax bracket was 90%. The highest marginal tax rate was 90% back in the day. For those of you who don't know humor and jokes. But basically, he's explaining that what will happen if Kathy Hochul refuses to raise taxes on the rich. She's the one who has the ability to stop this, which is why he's been transparent, so people can ask her to pass the wealth tax, which she refuses to do. He can't fulfill his promises if she's not cooperative. Also, without the mess Adams made, none of this would be even happening. Blame the guy who's been in office for less than 2 months. That's what's going on here. Okay? One of the techniques here that I think is very intelligent is pitting two of these different forces together. In order to develop more public pressure, Zohran Mamdani is being as transparent as possible. He doesn't have the power to do this wealth tax because he's the mayor. But as the mayor, he has the power to put pressure on Kathy Hochul, and he also has the power to pursue different kinds of taxes at the city level. One of the things that he has the power to do, as the power to pursue, is trying to raise the property taxes. He doesn't want to raise the property taxes, so because that's an objectively unpopular position, and it will have negative pressure on working class New Yorkers, something that he's very aware of. He is tactically saying, if you don't actually do this wealth tax, which is very popular, then we will be forced to either A, raise the property taxes, which is very unpopular, and will force the New York Assembly to do something that many people don't want to do, especially because legally, the New York budget has to be balanced. So it's going to happen no matter what. And because austerity is not an option, understandably, austerity is not an option at all, he's basically saying these are the options that we have. Someone's going to get taxed. It's up to you to either tax the middle class and working class individuals by way of raising the property taxes and then having landlords fucking raise the rent and ruin affordability, or you tax the super wealthy. Anyway, let's get to the United States striking Iran at the behest of Israel now.
Hold on, help is coming. We all wondered what he meant. And on the 22nd of January, he said there's a massive armada off the coast of Iran. Well, it wasn't so much an armada, but it was the carrier strike group based on the Abraham Lincoln. And that's a pretty powerful carrier strike group, and that's been there since more or less the end of January. But now there really is something to talk about, which is that the Gerald Ford, another carrier strike group, is just sitting off Gibraltar. It's there at the moment. It will probably go through the Strait of Gibraltar tonight. And if it chooses, it could be off the coast in the Eastern Mediterranean within about 4 days. So by the weekend, it's possible that the United States will have 3 really important elements in place for some sort of military action. The first element, of course, is the naval buildup. So there might be 2 carrier battle groups, one in the Arabian Sea, one in the Eastern Mediterranean. There will be at least 11 air defense destroyers. There are 3 littoral combat ships. There are at least 2, maybe even 3 attack submarines loaded with Tomahawk missiles. So that's one element. A second element is that we've seen lots of C-17s and C-5s, the big heavy lifters, the Globemasters and the Galaxies, all over the region in the last 10 days, bringing air defense assets to American bases all over the region. So quite likely what the Americans have been doing is strengthening.
I like that we just talked about taxation for like the last hour or so, just so you can see where the tax dollars are going, by the way. Like, I'm glad that I spent the last hour talking about, like, percentages of taxes paid, only for us to now show you exactly where it's fucking going. Because if you thought that it was going to the teachers, you're wrong. If you thought that it was going to fixing the infrastructure, you're wrong. It's going to corporate subsidies, and it's going to this. Military machines moving in the direction of Iran at the behest of a foreign nation state, Israel. Isn't that wonderful?
The air defense at all of their facilities in case of Iranian retaliation once an attack begins. And the third element is that data and forensics have been looking at the movement of American aircraft in recent days. And the thing that's most interesting about this, they've got lots of fighters in place. But if we look at some of the maps that we have been able to create, then we can see that
Yeah, you're obsessed with Israel. It's always so funny that, like, that's the number one thing that people try to say. Hasan, you're so Israel obsessed. Motherfucker, you know who's Israel obsessed? The American politicians, the American political class. They love Israel. They care about Israel more than they care about you. Some are even more honest than others, like Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham goes to Israel twice a month now. According to Jennifer Jacobs, from CBS News, Scoop from CBS News. Top national security officials have told Trump the military is ready for potential strikes on Iran as soon as this weekend, but the timeline for any action is likely to extend beyond Saturday or Sunday, sources say. Trump has not yet made a final decision. Over the next 3 days, Pentagon is moving some personnel out of the Middle East region, primarily to Europe or back to U.S., ahead of potential action or counterattacks by Iran. It's standard practice for the Pentagon to shift assets and troops ahead of potential military activity and doesn't necessarily signal an attack on Iran is imminent, one of the sources said. Contacted by CBS News on Wednesday afternoon, a Pentagon spokesperson said they had no information to provide. This is by Jennifer Jacobs and Jim Laporta. Secretary of State Marco Rubio plans to visit Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in about 2 weeks for further discussions, according to one of the sources. A source told Dropsite Trump was intent on striking Iran in January, but was not satisfied with the options. The new diplomatic talks gave Pentagon the time to dispatch more firepower to the region. Sources says there's 80 to 90% likelihood U.S. strikes within weeks. By Trump was not satisfied with the options, he means Trump was scared that little O Israel could get punished in the process a little too much. And because he cares about Israel more than he cares about the Americans, he shied away from it.
They've got lots of air-to-air tankers. And so here, on the 16th of February, we tracked 6 KC-135 air-to-air tankers from Mildenhall in the United Kingdom to a base in Greece.
It's so funny when people say, oh, dude, you're Israel obsessed. It's so fucking awesome. Yeah, I'm Israel obsessed. How about moving billions of dollars worth of assets, naval assets, into the fucking region to defend Israel so that we can strike a foreign adversary that we have declared a foreign adversary at the behest of Israel to attack them for Israel? I would love to live in a world where I don't think about Israel at all. Like where Israel to me is no different than, I don't know, Estonia or something, right? I would love to live in that world. I wish to live in that world. I wish to live in a world where I forgot the name of Israel. Do you understand what I'm saying? But unfortunately, I don't live in that world. I live in this one. And in this one, American politicians will literally sell their firstborn children if it means Israel gets to have an additional $1 billion in munitions. Okay? They don't give a fuck. They don't care about you. They don't care about your interests. They don't care about fixing the fucking potholes. They care about making sure that Israel gets more and more military funding, that Israel gets to have all of its wishes, all of its desires fulfilled. You really should cover Estonian politics, man? No, I'm not going to do that. Okay? I want to live in a world where I think about Israel as much as I think about Rhodesia. That would be a beautiful world to live in. But for the time being, as an American political commentator, I have to think about Israel all the time because seemingly that's the number one priority of our politicians.
They've got those in place. And then today, overnight, on the 18th, another 10 tankers came from the continental United States, stopped in the UK, presumably to refuel, and they've gone all the way to Greece and to Bulgaria at American bases there. So those tankers are really important because the tankers create this sense that the Americans have got plenty of bases in the Middle East, but if for political reasons they can't use them, they don't need them. Because they've got bases in Greece and Bulgaria, they could use Cyprus, Aquitanian Cyprus, and the tankers will give them the range that those fighters and bombers might need to attack Iran, if necessary. The final part of the jigsaw are the Sentry E-3 aircraft. Very easy to recognize. These are the AWACS, the Airborne Warning and Control Aircraft. 6 of them are now in the region. You can start a war with one of these because they actually see the whole battlefield. And so with E-3 Sentry aircraft, we know that the Americans, by the weekend, could operate a very, very large campaign if they choose to. From the weekend. We'll find out next week.
Thank you, Michael. Garrett.
On Iran, I'm not asking you for like military secrets here, but can you share?
Know I would be never.
Why is Israel so important? I'm genuinely asking. It's not Israel that's necessarily important. It's that Israel is our base of operations in the region. Israel is the destabilizing factor in this incredibly resource-rich region. Israel is love. Israel is life. Israel is my favorite nation on the planet. Israel is the only nation that matters. There's no other nation that matters when you think about Israel. When I think about Israel, my heart is filled with joy. I cannot comprehend a country that I would care about more than Israel. Am Israel Chai. It was promised to the people that lived there 3,000 years ago. You guys are all anti-Semitic for not even thinking this every morning. Every morning I wake up and I do my 10 Am Israel Chais, and I think to myself, Denny Avdija is the best basketball player that's ever existed on God's green earth. Benjamin Netanyahu is handsome. And also I care about Israel more than I care about my family members. And yeah, that's it.
Unless you want to give them. Can you share a little bit about the president's thinking on whether or not to strike Iran, who he's talking to, what information he's consuming, and why a strike might be necessary on a nuclear program he says was obliterated by the last U.S. strike?
Well, there's many reasons and arguments that one could make for a strike against Iran. The president had a very successful operation as commander-in-chief with Operation Midnight Hammer, as you know, as you just said, totally obliterated Iran's nuclear facilities. The president has always been very clear, though, with respect to Iran or any country around the world, diplomacy is always his first option, and Iran would be very wise to make a deal with President Trump and with this administration. He's talking to many people. Of course, his national security team, first and foremost, and you know who the members of that team are. And this is something, obviously, the president takes seriously. He's always thinking about what's in the best interest of the United States of America, of our military, of the American people. And that's how he makes decisions with respect to military action of any kind.
Rubbish on the streets, bikes to get around, power only by torchlight. This, the state of Cuba, desperately running out of oil supplies because it's reliant on Venezuela for fuel, and the US blocking imports of oil from there threatens to grind this island to a halt. The problem is everywhere to be seen in Havana, and this now a threat to public health. No fuel to power the rubbish trucks.
More American evil. Again, for years and years, Republicans used to say, Hasan, all you say is America bad, America evil. Why don't you get the fuck out of here if you hate it so much? And I tried to explain to them that the reason why I criticize America is because I love the promise of America, and I believe that America could do much better for both its citizens and for citizens everywhere around the world. Nowadays, liberals also fucking say the same shit. Liberals also say, Hasan, all you say is America bad, America evil, America bad, America evil. Except nowadays that reality is impossible to avoid. How can you call a nation state that has all of the power, the hegemonic superpower of the planet, doing this to a nation much smaller, much tinier in its that unfortunately has the proximity of a couple hundred miles? How can you call a country that does this to a much smaller nation, starving its population, killing its population deliberately, anything but evil? This is siege warfare, okay? That's what it is.
Oh, it's serious, critical, very critical. It's prone to causing diseases, which are caused by garbage. Please do something about this. And no fuel for homes, schools, hospitals, causing blackouts for much of the day. Cuba's communist ideology has put it at odds with the world's biggest superpower for years. It's now stuck between accepting...
That's one way to approach it. Put it at odds. More like Cuba's communist revolution is the reason why the largest superpower on the planet has actively punished it, choosing to starve its population, trying to kill its leaders since the beginning of the successful revolution.
White House demands, or facing a crisis that could snowball into catastrophe for citizens. Trump says it needs to make a deal or face the consequences, seeing a potential chance for a Cuban government to fall.
Cuba is right now a failed nation. They don't even have jet fuel to get for airplanes to take off. They're clogging up their runway. We're talking to Cuba right now. I have Marco Rubio talking to Cuba right now, and they should absolutely make a deal because it's really a humanitarian threat.
Caused by you, motherfucker.
America is a region split at the moment. Traditional alliances bending under the pressure of US involvement.
These were much needed supplies from Mexico being shipped in last week. But its government now halting shipments after the US threatened tariffs against countries that send supplies to Cuba. But not everyone there agrees with the Sheinbaum administration, with demos against what some Mexicans say is economic suffocation for Cubans, and Chile's far-right president-elect saying it won't be lending Cuba a hand either.
I do not agree with giving direct economic aid to a government that has imposed a dictatorship for more than 60 years and has left the Cuban people in a very deprived, inhumane situation.
Russian tourists at the airport in Havana being repatriated, but while an inconvenience for its holidaymakers, this is potentially an opportunity for Russia itself, because Cuba now needs oil, and badly. Russia could be the one to provide it. With the US-Cuba relationship strained for decades, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, the son of Cuban immigrants, is seen to be ramping that up further, accused of a personal agenda or even a lifelong dream to exact regime change. Rubio, for his part, defending the aggressive stance to Bloomberg.
God, we deserve so much worse than we get. It is crazy. There is truly no God. There is truly no karmic justice. It is unfucking bearable. Who is Cuban, by the way? Yeah. Narco Rubio literally comes from a family of fucking drug traffickers, okay? That's what's so crazy about it. Like, this motherfucker, his stepbrother was straight up a cocaine dealer. And he's out here being like, oh, we got to take out Venezuela because of the drugs that they're dealing. Like, bitch, take yourself out. God damn. I hate this person so much. I hate him so much. I mean, I obviously hate Donald Trump too. I hate all of them.
Fundamental problem Cuba has is it has no economy, and the people who are in charge of that country, in control of that country, they don't know how to improve the everyday life of their people without giving up power over sectors that they control. They want to control everything. They don't want the people of Cuba to control anything.
Why can't you just fucking let him breathe? It makes no dang sense. Oh, dude, you don't understand. Socialism is just not working. Communism is not working. That's why we have to starve them, to make sure you understand.